What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. It's been a week, like it always has been, but it feels like it's been longer for me. You may notice the studio, the set today is a little bit different. And you're correct, that is true. Unfortunately, my roommates have COVID. Fortunately enough, I tested negative and got the heck out of that apartment. But the problem is that I'm now stuck in a hotel for the next 8 days. So yeah, you'll probably see this video and the next one here at this hotel. We're gonna make the most of it, you know, we're gonna have a good time. It is a little lonely, I'm gonna be honest. It's not the most fun thing, but I get to make some videos for you guys. Unfortunately, I cannot roast coffee at the moment, so if you've put in a coffee order, you've probably got an email or a text from me saying, hey, it's gonna be a few days before I'm able to roast again. But you know, making the most of it. But yeah, that's kind of where we are today. You know, it's not a bad set, I'm gonna be honest. Made the most of it. Don't have any of my lights, so just using this beautiful giant window behind you that you can't see. But I'm using that for my lighting today. And today is a special day because we're gonna talk about something I have been waiting for over a year, and I finally have it in my hands, and it is the Fellow Ode Grinder. Guys, I'm excited. So I know that on this channel we have talked about the importance of grinders before, and if you don't have a good grinder, it will be incredibly hard to make a delicious cup of coffee. Now, I am in no means saying you need to buy this exact grinder, but what I am saying is if you haven't checked out my other video on grinders, check it out. It'll go into a little more detail about why a good grinder, especially a good burr grinder, not a blade grinder, is essential to your everyday coffee setup. Now, all that being said, I have been waiting on this for a year. Like I said, this grinder was announced in December of 2019, January of 2020, somewhere around that date. And because of COVID and everything, the release date for this grinder kept getting backed up. And it was a bummer, I'm gonna be honest. I saw this grinder was being released and I was super excited. For the longest time, I used that burr grinder that I showed you before. It's about a $50 burr grinder. You know, it did the job, but it wasn't super consistent. Some mornings I would make this, tasty, delicious cup of coffee. And then other days, like, the coffee would not be nearly as good and I'd be using the same coffee on the same grind setting. So that's why I moved from that one to my hand grinder, because I used it on a few trips and everything, and I realized, like, oh, this makes a better cup of coffee. But then over time, I started to learn more about grinders and all these different things, and I learned that this grinder, my hand one, was doing a great job. Like, it was doing the best it could, but it also was, there would be points it would make super tiny fines, which are like basically the almost dust-like particles, which can over-extract your coffee, and then make really big boulders, which are literally just chunks of coffee so large that you're really not going to extract anything from. So it can give you this very uneven extraction in the same cup where it tastes under-extracted, yet it also tastes over-extracted. And so because of that, I was like, I need to find something else for my daily cup of coffee. And after doing a lot of research, this was the one that I settled on. And I received this the end of December, and I've been using it for almost a month now. So we're just gonna go over first some of the things that I really love about this machine, and then some of the things that I'm not too big of a fan on, but wouldn't stop me from buying it again if this one spontaneously exploded or something. So first off, what I love about this machine, this grinder is sturdy as frick. The build quality is incredible. I could honestly do a workout with this thing. It is metal, like really good quality plastic. It's got this nice little guide on here that'll show you kind of what the range is for like certain coffees you're making at home. Like the plastics for the hoppers are like really nice and sturdy. Like this little knocker here on this side, like straight up metal. So most of this is either metal, or if it's not metal, it's like a really good quality plastic. And I appreciate that. Like if I'm buying something for $300 like this machine is, like I want it to be a really good quality, and it really is. It fits all of those expectations. Now the second thing is its compact design. And I know you might be looking at it and saying like, Josh, compact, what the heck? Let me explain to you. There are grinders that do basically the just as good of a job as this one does, and they're sitting in coffee shops and they are huge. They are like 2-3 feet tall. They are just massive machines. Whereas this thing is so small. I brought like a thin hydro flask to show you. It is basically 1.5 hydro flasks across, and wow, look at that, almost 1 long. So it is small. The footprint, like you all have seen where I live, it is a tiny, tiny apartment. And this just fits so perfectly right next to my little kettle, right in the corner, doesn't take up too much space. And because of that, it's one of my favorite features of it, that is able to make such good coffee, you know, grind so well, and yet take up such a small footprint. Like that is so important to me. So the third thing I like is how this is a stepped adjustment. Because this is a machine made for brewed coffee, pour overs, French press, AeroPresses, and not for espresso, a stepped adjustment is really nice, honestly. I think one, it just lets you dial in your coffee, and then, you know, if you have a couple different bags at home, you can dial it in and be like, all right, this bag is a 2.2, the other bag is a 2.5, maybe another bag is a 3, and you can just dial it in, rather than making those tiny little adjustments that you would on something like an espresso grinder. I think the step does a really good job, and it seems to be in pretty good increments for the most part, which we'll get into that in a minute. Feature number 4 that I love is there is this little magnet right here, and oh my goodness, guys. There's a magnet on the bottom of this, so when you slide it in, it'll just perfectly into position, so that when you grind the coffee, it'll go directly in the middle, which you might not think is like a crazy thing, but it's so nice because you don't have to try and line it up. You know, if it's early in the morning, you haven't had your coffee and you're waking up and you're like, oh man, time to make coffee, and you just kind of like set it under here and you're like, that seems good, and then you grind and it's gone. Like it's half of the coffee is on the ground, on the floor, on the counter. You have to regrind it. You've wasted some delicious geisha. Oh, a tragedy. But with this lock, it's just a magnetic lock right into place. It's wonderful. And it has this nice little guard for the top, so it'll contain everything in here rather than making a mess. There's a little mess, but honestly, not huge. It's a very small mess. The fifth thing I love is this knocker. First of all, it's like branded. It says Fellow right on the side. It just feels good, honestly. And just listen. Oh my goodness. I don't know why I love that, but like it just sounds so nice. It is super high quality. This is something you really only find on bigger, higher quality, like coffee shop level machines. Basically, if you've never seen what this does, you finish grinding, it finishes it, you give it a few seconds, and you just tap this, and it should knock all the excess grounds out that have been kind of held in by like static electricity, other things. And so you're not, getting wastage, and what you put in is what is coming out. So this really gives that small, subtle touch that just makes it feel high quality. And I love that. I love those little things that make something just feel a little better and make you feel like you're in a coffee shop when you're not. Because let's be honest, that's what we're going for here, is cafe quality coffee at home. The last thing I love, number 6, I hinted at the beginning, is the consistent grind size. When you're grinding, it just looks good. You can see when you look at it versus some of the other grinders that I have that it is uniform. There might be a few fines, there might be maybe a couple boulders, but usually you don't get those. I would much rather have fines personally than have boulders, because I would rather have something that's gonna, maybe slightly over extract than literally pieces of coffee that will get nothing out of them at all. Like that would suck. I would hate that. So yeah, the consistency of this machine is really nice, and I've had it for about a month now, so I've been using it nearly daily, sometimes multiple times a day, and I've been using it with the same coffee and using the same method a lot of times, so I can test that consistency. And it does. It brews the exact same cup of coffee every time. And if there is something different, it's because I did something weird. Like I changed something, I used a different method. So it doesn't have anything to do with this. This thing is consistent, and I love it. All right, now let's talk about the 4 things that I'm not the biggest fan of. I'm not gonna say I hate them, but I'm not the biggest fan of these 4 things. So the first thing is the price is a little higher than other grinders. If I'm remembering correctly, you can get like a Barista Encore for around like 150. It's definitely less than 200. There are definitely some good quality grinders on the market for under 200, and this thing comes out right at $300 before taxes. So it's expensive, but on that note, I would say that it lives up to its price range, and it feels like a machine that is gonna last me for many, many years, and I won't need to replace it anytime soon. The second thing I don't like that much is this has an auto shut-off feature. So right here, this little button is what you click when you want to start grinding, and then you can either shut it off yourself or allow it to auto shut off. Now, it's been about 50-50. Sometimes it will auto shut off maybe like 2 seconds after you hear it finishing grinding, and that's great. And then other times, like, I don't know if it's the burr is doing something weird or what, but it just grinds for like 15, 20, 30 seconds. And a lot of times I've just had to shut it off on my own because it just doesn't shut off for some reason. So like I said, it's not the biggest deal, but like if you're going to have an auto shut off feature, then like it would be nice if it worked the whole time. Part of that could be me. I might need to recalibrate something with the burrs in here since I just got it, and maybe that will help fix that issue. But it just, yeah, it could use an adjustment on that. So the third thing, and honestly, this is what kind of bothers me the most, is these stepped adjustments. And it's not the steps themselves, it's where pour overs and stuff start. So I've seen a lot of other videos of other people that have had similar problems. Some of them have kind of fixed it by adjusting the burrs so they are as close as they can be once you get it to the finest setting without actually touching, and then, you know, going up from there. I haven't done any of those adjustments yet, but I would like to. But I know that for me, my pour overs are right around the number 2. And if you look at their little chart thing, it shows pour overs range from 5 to 2. And for me, like 2.5 is kind of the highest coarseness I have gone for, like my V60. Maybe if I was doing a Chemex, I would go higher, but especially for like a V60, some of those ones you want a little bit finer for, it doesn't quite give you that range that you would expect from a machine that is meant for pour overs. Now, in no way am I saying this is a reason not to get it. It still feels like it has good range, but for someone that really only ever makes pour overs, maybe cold brew on occasion, it feels like half of this grinder is just not useful. So yeah, that's one of the biggest problems that I have with the machine. And you know, maybe it'll be fixed. Maybe there's something I can do to fix it. But again, it still makes delicious coffee. It just feels like the range to work with is a little smaller than I would like it to be. The final thing is inside this little cup, there are little fins. And I'll give you a little close up so you can see it, but they don't do as much as I would hope. They're supposed to be for like pourings. You can, you know, pour your grounds out and it'll go nice and won't go everywhere. I've noticed like sometimes your grinds get like stuck behind it, you kind of have to like knock it around and then end up dumping out the backside anyway where there aren't any fins. This is just a personal preference. I never use, like I used them once and it just felt like more of a nuisance than literally just pouring it out, giving it some nice taps to like get it out and having no problem that way. So obviously that's more of a personal preference. It's not really hindering me making coffee, but if they were gonna put something in like that, I was just hoping they would be a little more useful, something I would actually use on a daily basis. But it doesn't bother me that much aside from the fact that I just don't use them ever. All right, and now for my conclusion. I do love this grinder, honestly. I have been waiting for it. The hype was very built up for this grinder, and there was a point myself and I would say other baristas, coffee people were concerned that it would not live up to the hype. And in my opinion, it lived up to the hype. It delivered on a lot of features it promised. It didn't over-deliver on anything, which is fine, but it also didn't under-deliver. And I'm happy about that. I'm happy about this machine. I can already tell that I've made better coffee. The first day I ever used it, Christmas Day, I picked a grind setting. I made a cup of coffee with one of the coffees that I had been using my hand grinder for, and I made a good cup of coffee without even having to try. I just kind of took a guess at where the grind setting was based on some other videos I watched, and it was a good cup of coffee. So the fact that I could just take it out of the box and immediately make a delicious cup of coffee was incredible. I mean, how do you beat that? Like, I don't. Like, that's amazing. And oh my goodness, for me, the fact that I don't have to sit there every morning and grind coffee by hand, or if I want to make a coffee for a roommate or coffees for my friends, I don't need them to grind it or me to grind it. I can just pour it in and it'll be done really quickly. I love that. That is so nice. It's a huge time saver for me. It's just like, I think it allows me to enjoy the process a little bit more, and I love that feature. Now, like I said, there's some things that I don't like, as I've already said, but I'm really excited to use this and, down the road in 6 months or so, do another review and kind of see what it's like after 6 months. Do I still feel the same? Do the things that bothered me still bother me? Are there new things that have come out? I think I will still really like it after 6 months, honestly. I feel like this will be a grinder I'll have for a very long time, and I could easily see it being something that lasts for many years, and then I buy another one if it ever does break. Hopefully not, but if it does. And I'm happy about that. I love Fellow. I love their products. They do a great job. Their products are a little expensive, but everything that I've ever bought from them is super amazing, very high quality, and I respect that and I appreciate that. Well guys, that is what I have for you today. The Fellow Ode Grinder, one of the newest grinders on the market for pour over coffee. Remember, don't buy this coffee if you're looking for an espresso grinder. It's not what you're looking for. But if you need a new thing for pour over, for any kind of drip coffee, for even cold brew or French press, I would highly recommend checking this out. It won't disappoint you, honestly. And if you need some coffee for that new grinder, you know where to go. The Caffeinated Consultant has you covered. Some delicious coffees, some new coffees coming soon, some new products coming soon, and some new reviews coming soon, because it's 2021. I almost said it's 2020. It's 2021, and we are gonna just have some fun this year, do some new things, do more reviews, but also I'm gonna hang out with you, just have some fun together. That is all I have to say. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay caffeinated, stay healthy, stay happy, avoid the virus, please. Wear a mask, and I will catch you all in the next video. Bye. Oh my gosh, I didn't even have a coffee this time.